Joshua Dean, another Boeing whistleblower, is now dead. Joshua Dean was a quality auditor at Boeing, and he testified at a lawsuit last year that Boeing was actively ignoring defects. Apparently, Joshua Dean passed away because he caught a sudden illness which quickly turned into an infection which caused him to pass away. How convenient for Boeing, huh? This is the second Boeing whistleblower who died in 3 months, and watch the corporate media not be curious about this fact at all. Joshua Dean was only 45, and his neighbors and family said he was reportedly in really good health. But this person got sick and died suddenly. Then we have John Barnett, a whistleblower who explained how Boeing used recycled trash and defective parts, who was found dead in an apparent suicide. And once again, this is despite families and friends saying that there was no signs of John Barnett being suicidal. And also, why would he kill himself right before he was set to testify when he was trying to get his story out for years? Like, these stories don't even make sense at face value, but they're not supposed to. These stories sound ridiculous and implausible, but the campus class is filled with criminals that is sending a message that if you blow the whistle on them, they will have you killed, and they don't even have to make up a convincing story to get away with it.
What's poppin'? What's poppin', my friends, my family? Welcome to another edition of Nick at Night. It's great to be back. I guess I filled in my speech for my Tuesday Nick at Night show. Sorry for not being live on Tuesday, but I'll make up for that with Nick and CJ on Wednesday. Make sure you check that out. If there's any video that you guys should watch on RBN, make sure you guys check out the live panel I did with Joe Stein on Tuesday that I uploaded on last night, I should say. That's what I live to do. That's what I live for, my friends. I miss public speaking. I think I said it when I got back when I was talking to CJ. I think I'm better at like public speaking in general compared to live streams because you can see people's face. It's more of a human interaction, which is what I'm good at. Guys, I used to sell cars, remember. I'm good at human interaction. It was great. Me and the fam. Great being in conversation with Dr. Stein as well. So make sure you guys check that out. This is a story with Boeing. We got a lot to cover, so I'm going to quickly touch on this. I covered the last time someone from Boeing died. Actually, let me pull that up. Now I think about it. And I covered this in my new video as well, where you had John Barnett, who had no history of suicidal thoughts. In fact, he spent the last few years of his life fighting to get his story out. Here it is. Look at the date on this. This is March 12th. You guys know I'm dropping banger after banger after banger. Yeah, I saw you guys. The Chris Hedges being fired. I was joking with Rome and Zoya. We was like, hey, yo, maybe we should get Chris Hedges on RBN. The problem is, and that sounds good, but we can't afford no Chris Hedges. But I told you guys, there are not many principal media outlets out here, man. Why you guys think I got into RBN, where we have true freedom of speech? The true freedom of speech that we have at RBN confuses a lot of people because we don't dictate what we publish. And apparently, while I'm here at Real News, Max Alvarez got very nervous because a lot of Zionists was getting upset at what Chris Hedges was saying on their show, so they pulled the plug. On RBN, we have true citizen journalists that are uncensored. We all have our opinions. We all have our framing on issues. And we fight about it a lot behind the scenes, whether you guys know it or not, sometimes. But that's what it means to be in community together. We're trying to change the definition of what it means to be on the left. All these people are suburbanites. Max Alvarez, Real News Networks, and all the above, they're friends. They are all suburbanites. They are not of our class. They engage in civility politics. They cow to the pressures of capital. But let me get back on topic. I appreciate the super chat. What's popping, my friend Didi? Big shout out to Didi. Big shout out to everyone in the chat as well. I'm gonna see if I can read some more chats on Nick at Night. I usually read a lot, but what's with your voice? I don't know. Maybe I've been talking too damn much. Maybe that's the problem. But I'm not even trying to hide it. What's popping? Crazy Flower Eater. Now that's a powerful name. Bowen not even trying to hide it. They're not. So that's the point I made in my video. The stories are supposed to be absurd, my friends. I'm gonna show you this video with John Barnett. So what they will have you believe is that John Barnett will try to get his story out for years, and then he is set to testify at a lawsuit. He already gave one interview. He was on his way to give a second interview, as I'm about to explain in this video, and then right before he's so close to get his story out there, and right before he does it, that's when he commits suicide. Anyway, I don't want to belabor the point because I'm going to make it again in this video.
A Boeing whistleblower was found dead in an apparent suicide in a hotel parking lot. John Barnett was a quality manager for Boeing for 32 years, and he was giving a series of interviews where he was exposing Boeing for violating safety regulations for profit. One of the things that John Barnett exposed is how Boeing would take defective parts and then recycle them on new planes in order to prevent production delays and reduce production costs. So essentially, Boeing was building planes out of trash. Ever since he retired in 2017, John Barnett has been trying to get his safety concerns out there. So the corporate media and the police would have us believe right when his story is about to get out there, right when Boeing is about to be held accountable, now that his testimony is more important than ever, that's when he commits suicide? Why wouldn't he wait until after the interviews are done instead of committing suicide in the middle of the case? The police investigating this story are apparently the least curious motherfuckers ever. They said he killed himself in a hotel parking lot. Why not kill yourself in the hotel? It may be just me, but a hotel parking lot seems like a place you would die if you are being targeted by an assassin, especially an assassin who knows exactly where you are staying. And I'm not kidding here. We need the police to come out and explain in great detail how they knew that this was a self-inflicted wound. Because this story is obviously fucking shady. But I need you to understand, the criminals in our ruling class understands this. These stories are meant to send a chilling message to future whistleblowers that they can and they will kill you. They will get away with it, and then they will slander your name by saying you committed suicide.
Bro, people have no idea the criminals that we have in our ruling class. You know who dies in the hotel parking lot? Someone who, like I said, someone who's targeted by an assassin. They don't even hide it. And there are a lot of people who bought anti-communist, pro-capitalist propaganda because they were like, oh my God, communists, Putin get people murdered. Do you know in Russia you get murdered, and Putin, do you know in DPRK you get murdered? No evidence. They have no evidence for their claims. Like, you know those stories you hear about people falling from skyscrapers in Russia? There's no evidence that Putin ever had that ordered. There's no evidence that that's an assassination by Russia or by the oligarchy. But then we see this happen in the United States with Boeing and whistleblowers so obviously getting whacked by the capitalist criminals in our ruling class, to the point where I was looking at headlines, and obviously the corporate media can't tell the truth. They are told not to be curious. Let me see if I can find some more as well, because you will see in the headlines a lot of these capitalists, bourgeoisie, people who believe in Western chauvinism. There's a sense I've seen on Twitter where it was trending from the people in the West. They're like, holy shit, what the fuck? There's this big what the fuck moment going on in the PMC class. You want to know who was absolutely not surprised? Black America. Minority groups. People who are communists. People who are socialists. We've been warning you guys about this criminal ruling class for decades. And now there are a lot of people in America that are going through some shit right now. The Crystal Balls, the Social Democrats, the Ryan Grims, they're going through some things right now. These are the people who voted and advocated for Biden, right? They're going through some things. Because now people are realizing, like, oh my God, I think the fucking Marxists was right. Oh, I think the Tankies was right. Oh, damn, fuck. There are a lot of people who never say it, but they just now realizing, like, fuck, RBN was right the whole time. All the people who put John Fetterman, who canceled RBN for calling out John Fetterman for the Zionist that he is, they will never admit it, but they think in their head, like, fuck, RBN was right. That's why they hate us. They hate people who get it right when they get it wrong. And as a lot of people will say stuff like, oh, they will never do stuff like that in this country. We're seeing this. Because look at the headline there. This is what I'm talking about. Boeing whistleblower dies following a brief illness weeks after the suicide of another. You guys see, they would never say what I am saying unequivocally, that, yeah, Boeing definitely had these motherfuckers whacked. And I'm going to show you guys some more evidence of that. But you guys see how they have to mention it because they going through some shit right now. Like, holy shit, maybe we're the criminals. They're the same liberal capitalist motherfuckers who spread unfounded conspiracy theories about Kim Jong-un and Putin and Xi Jinping killing their political opponents. People who are criticizing the oligarchy getting missing. They just not realizing that we're doing that shit. Like, there are liberals going through shit right now, seeing cops and paramilitaries that work for the hostile foreign power crack the skulls of senior citizens and peaceful protesters. Everything that we are seeing right now, we told you guys was the reality of this country on RBN, and the white liberal bourgeoisie have told you guys that RBN is only telling you that because that we want clicks. They said the only reason why we're saying this is because we want clicks. Oh, but look at what Nick is saying. Nick is saying that we're a fascist country. He's saying that for likes and clicks. That's what they said when RBN started out. The same people going through some shit because they got to admit the Tankies was right. The RBN was right. That the real reason why people dislike RBN, because my picture, the speech I had with Jill Stein went, I'll say viral for me. You know what I mean? And there are a lot of the RBN haters that are like, oh my God, this nigga Nick, how the fuck he out here doing shit? You know my haters, who the fuck this nigga Nick think he out here doing shit? And that one of the most satisfying thing, they want to tell Misty, like all the social democrats, all the Bernie-crats who thought they was the wave, they thought they were the future of the left, they was left behind, they were made irrelevant. Because they have been proven incorrect by time. Because I've been covering the Boeing scandal, exposing the crimes of the ruling class. You guys saw the hotspot I covered when the last guy died. So now you see these headlines where they can't say that Boeing killed him, but hey, they like, hey, isn't it kind of weird that someone committed suicide who was also a whistleblower? Yeah, they're kind of strange. Yeah, kind of strange. That's like what liberals do, and that was what so many Americans do. Like, they would say the same thing that should lead you to the conclusion that will lead you to be a revolutionary. Like liberals would say shit like this. Like the Bernie-crats would say shit like this. They're like, man, AIPAC, they spend a lot of money on our elections, man. Isn't it kind of like our elections is rigged? They're like, huh, yeah, huh. Now you think about it, yeah, kind of weird, huh? All right, who are we gonna vote for next election? Like they never learn from the conclusions, from the stories and the happenings in our country. They come to the conclusion, they just move on. Now, this is the reason why unequivocally saying that Bowen had this person killed. I'm gonna play this. This is from Boeing whistleblower Joshua Dean. This is our friend's hotspot. I tell you guys, hotspot. We dropping bangers after bangers, and not only my hotspot videos, it's also the overall coverage on hotspot on X. You know what I mean? So let's play this clip. So here it is. Boeing whistleblower Joshua Dean told NPR on Friday. So I don't want to spoil it. Let's listen to him. So there was an NPR interview on February.
But Dean says many of the workers knew something was off.
We're having a pizza party because we're lowering defects, but we're not lowering defects. We just ain't reporting them. You know what I mean?
Dean was a quality auditor at Spirit's factory. His father and grandfather had worked there too, and he took his job seriously. So he got frustrated with what he describes as a culture that pressured employees not to report defects in order to get planes out of the factory faster.
Now, there are a lot of cute things that capitalists are doing right now. They keep saying stuff like, oh my God, isn't Boeing so awful? Oh, you sweet summer children. They're like, oh my God, Boeing is so awful. Boeing is so unethical. Fam, Boeing got caught. I promise you guys, this is standard, my friends, because as people who read theory, people who actually study the science of economies, of how these companies operate, the science that we read through Marxism here. How do companies make profit, my friends? How do companies make profits? Companies make profits by cutting labor value, pushing costs into the consumers, and reducing production cost. So one way you can reduce production costs, once you squeeze labor value, which Boeing can't really do that much of because they pay their engineers really well. So since they pay their engineers really well, the option to squeeze wages is not the primary way you can make profit. The most primary way you can make profit is reduce the amount of production costs. And the way you can reduce production costs is if you reduce the amount you spend on safety. You take shortcuts on safety regulations. One of the reasons why they recycle planes using trash with the last guy is because buying new parts costs money. Buying new parts costs money. Upkeep takes money. So when you have a system where everyone is searching for never-ending profits is a horrific way to centrally plan your society. Having a company like Boeing has so much power, but their quest is never-ending profit. So once you squeeze as much money you can as the workers, you're contracted from the government, so there's only so much cost you can push on the quote-unquote consumer. So the first two options are mostly out of the table when you look at Boeing and their industry. So the number one way you maximize profit when you maximize your market share is that you cut corners on production costs, which means you cut corner on safety. And people are like, oh my God, why is this happening? Of course this is going to happen. Of course, if you guys read theory, if you guys read history, if you guys understand how economies work, which is why our country purposely try to keep people dumb. They don't want people to understand labor value. They don't want people to understand how companies make profit. They just make up shit. Oh, well, we can't pay that worker that much money because he's a low-skilled worker. No, they're not paying that worker because they're trying to make profit and steal their labor value. If you have work that drives and creates revenue, you have work that is of value. The concept of low-skilled labor is capitalist propaganda. But in this case, it's of course this was going to happen. And John Oliver dropped a segment where he didn't even get into it like this, but John Oliver exposed that before Boeing merged, the faction in management that managed Boeing in their merging of these two companies was the worst faction. You had this one company that was upstanding in safety and they merged. He did this whole long segment explaining how during this merger, the worst part of the industry was elevated. John Oliver, thank you for covering that, my brother. A lot of people was educated because of the Boeing segment, so I'm not going to be an asshole. But why do you guys think that is? Why do you guys think that is? in a pursuit of never-ending profits, of course they're going to go after safety. So sorry, let me go back to this video. I almost damn near forgot about this video. Let's get back to it. I'll play from the beginning where Joshua Dean was explaining the culture at Boeing where there was pressure put on safety quality control managers, which of course is going to happen. And how is this even possible? Because as once again, John Oliver explained, our government deregulated the industry to the point where Boeing managed themselves. So this was our government designing this. Now, there are a lot of people who talk about central planning. Guys, capitalism is central planning. It's a choice to run your society based on a sense of anarchy and the whims of the capitalist class. It's not an intelligent form of central planning. So when the capitalist class chooses their central planning model, they give the power to the capitalist class to regulate themselves instead of this almighty scary government that people are afraid of. Essentially, the communities and the neighborhoods holding the people in power accountable. So this situation that we're living in right now is, of course, the end result. When you give capitalists the central planning model, then they will give capitalists the power to regulate themselves. So then they will reduce production costs doing with that said. Reduce protection for consumers because that is not in their interest. But anyway, I'll shut up now. Sorry, Ivano, that's a good way to put it. For a lack of a better term, chaos. That's probably a better way to put it than anarchy. You're correct. I was like, what's probably a better way to put it? Because there are a lot of anarcho-communists who are not like that. There are a lot of people who are more. I'm getting really into the weeds now, but there are a lot of anarchists who get pissed at me when I say this. I don't have anything against anarchists. They're based, but what I'm saying is there's a difference between the capitalist model of chaos, anarchy, unplanning, which leads to the people who have private property, the people who own the mean of production. They will design a society that suits the interests of the people. They will create a society that gives them more profit and power. So that's what I mean when I say anarchy and chaos. I'm not dissing anarchists. I'm just saying it's different when you give capitalists that power, if that makes sense. But anyway, let's continue this video. So you guys hear this whistleblowing.
But Dean's,
we're not even to the main story. We get to our main story.
Says many of the workers knew something was off.
We're having a pizza party because we're lowering defects, but we're not lowering defects. We just ain't reporting them. You know what I mean?
Dean was a quality auditor at Spirit's factory. His father and grandfather had worked there too, and he took his job seriously. So he got frustrated with what he describes as a culture that pressured employees not to report defects in order to get planes out of the factory faster.
I think they were sending out a message to anybody else. If you are too loud, we will silence you. If you make too much trouble, you will get the Josh treatment. You will get what happened to me.
Dean was fired last April, he says, in retaliation for flagging improperly drilled holes in fuselages. He's given statements as part of a shareholder lawsuit against Spirit. Spirit denies his allegations and is fighting the case in court. But Dean says many of the workers knew something was off.
We're having a pizza party because we're lowering defects, but we're not lowering defects. We just ain't reporting them. You know what I mean?
Dean was a quality auditor at Spirit's factory. His and grandfather.
I just now realized it. I was getting the next story. I'm gonna move on to the next story because I think we covered the ball enough. I want to cover I want to get to the anti-Semitism bill. So the main story of the stream, as you guys see in the title and the thumbnail, quote unquote free speech advocate, someone that we never took seriously at RBN, which made a lot of people upset, but we told you guys that RFK was a fraud. When you are weak on Israel, that will lead you to be weak on all other issues. I had a viral tweet not too long ago where I explained this, where the reason why RFK Jr. wasn't speaking out against the mass crackdown on people who are holding our government responsible for endless wars and genocide is because he has to support the Israeli position. When you are weak on Israel Palestine, that forces you to be weak on all other issues. People who pretend that RFK was anti-war was ignoring his position on Iran when he advocated for sanctions and maximum pressure on Iran. That is not an anti-imperialist candidate. His actions will lead to war. This is things I explain all the time. If you want to go back to my very friendly debate I had with someone I still respect, Pasta, where we talk about this, where I was playing like, bro, there's a lot of very deeply problematic things. I had a few RFK supporters I explained this to, but we're gonna get to that a little bit later because RFK 100% supports this. The entire right wing, as I've been trying to explain to people who've been trying to pretend that the right wing is for free speech. Whenever people pretended that was the case for years, and shame on everyone who did that, I will repeat to those people, hey man, the right wing is not for free speech. Look at what they think about BDS. Look at their position on Israel Palestine. And then whenever I said that for years, people are like, oh yeah, you're technically right, but come on, man. Come on, man. That's just one issue. Other than that, they good on free speech. Not really. I called out these frauds on the right for their loyalty to Israel, their embarrassing cuck-like behavior, their subservient behavior to Israel. These people know who their real masters are. These people pretend they're alpha males. They pretend that the left is weak. They talk about the weak left men. Did you hear people say that? They be like, the weak left men. There is nothing more fucking beta male than kowtowing to your government, fucking bootlicking your government, being afraid of revolution, bowing to the Zionists like that fucking coward Joe Rogan did. There's nothing more beta than seeing police marching down the street and you saying, thank you for your service, sir. Fighting for your liberty and freedom is the most based thing you can do. If you live in an unjust government and you have family, it's your job as a man to oppose authoritarianism or anything that suppresses the rights of you and your family. But there are these people like Megyn Kelly. There are these right-wingers. They're like, oh my God, look at these college students. They spoil kids. Look at these leftists. They're fucking spoiled. They're spoiled. Megyn Kelly like, oh my God, look, why will you protest? You must be ugly. You must not be having enough sex. They're beta. No, there's nothing more fucking weak if you as a man accept the tyranny being imposed on your life. So the entirety of white America and the entirety of these fake alpha males, like the Andrew Tate motherfuckers, these bootlickers who actually never challenged power, they pretend that being a man is, oh, you gotta hustle, grind, you gotta steal labor value, join the capitalist class. We gotta join the capitalist class because we can't defeat them. We can't have revolution, so we gotta join them. Nigga, you a beta male, in my opinion. What we need to do, we need to serve revolution. The real man fucking challenges their government. You have a large portion of white America, the people who pretend they're alpha males, people who pretend they support freedom and all that are cheering on. White Americans talk about give me liberty, give me death. Give me liberty or give me death. And then they see young people, their children friends stand up against this tyrannical government. And they're like, oh my God, why won't you guys submit to the government like I did? I submitted. I submitted to the government. I don't raise a ruckus. You have the House and our government telling us that we can't criticize another country. We can't criticize a whole ass country that we send our taxpayer money. We send our taxpayer money to Israel and they get free healthcare, free education, and then the ruling class tell us not to criticize Israel, and white people like, yes, sir. Yes, we know who our masters are. These cowards know exactly who their masters are. And then they want to look at the left, and then these people say left men are betas. Fam, explain to me how that makes sense at face value. You have these white men bootlicking the government. And then they say the people on the left are weak. You guys are weak. You guys are the beta males. You guys are afraid of the heat. We have young Gen Z people looking at the police state. These motherfuckers are armed. They are armed to the teeth. They're threatening to ruin their life, and you got a bunch of Gen Z kids standing up against them. It's the most alpha shit you can possibly do in your life. Every single guy at these protests are the most alpha male motherfuckers you can find, because they looking at our police state, the most violent empire known to man, and they saying, fuck you. Meanwhile, white men, white boomers, white Gen X motherfuckers, like Rogan and all these other motherfuckers who condemning the protests, like Jesse Waters and RFK Jr., these people who condemning the protests, they think they're the alpha males, but they will never ever challenge power like the way these Gen Z, quote unquote, weak men leftists do. You had Joe Biden, Genocide Joe, that essentially told people, hey man, if you're protesting my genocide, you're an anti-Semitic scum and we deserve to stick the police state on us. And then RFK Jr., the person who's running against him, Republicans, the people who pretend they are oppositional to Joe Biden, agree that Biden should have the power, that our state should have the power to suppress anyone who dissents against Biden's wars. So you guys see how RFK Jr. is a fake dissident, which we explain on RBN all the time. So this is the whole thing with the right wing. They're pretending that RFK Jr. and their wing, oh, we're the right wing that works out. The left wing, they don't like to work out. They post these gay ass videos of RFK Jr. doing push, and they like, oh my god, look how sexy RFK Jr. is. Fucking beta male motherfuckers. Grown ass men posting videos of RFK Jr. working out, like, oh my god, look how sexy he is. Oh my god, he gonna fucking fight for us. No, he's a pussy. You guys saw, I work out too. I'm not fucking doing, we don't have to do that. We don't have to project that shit. You guys saw the 24-inch pythons I have. I don't have to project that weakness. I trained Muay Thai for 12 years. I'm a bad man. We don't have to project this shit because we find our government. Anyway, let me continue this because we're going to see the most ultimate beta behavior on display here. This is RFK Jr. telling you guys that, yeah, we may have criticisms of the government, but you better not dissent too hard. If you dissent too hard, that's when it's a problem. But anyway, let's get to it.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an independent presidential candidate. Before we get to the politics, there's a lot of craziness going on. Scary stuff on college campus. The president's been hiding. What's going on?
I don't know. I mean, it's very, very alarming. It's puzzling because it's happening on the private campuses, and they actually have a lot more leeway for controlling this. I'm all for peaceful protests, for freedom of speech. You can't threaten people. You can't intimidate people.
Fam, this is RFK Jr. passionately coming out against free speech. Do you understand what he just said here? He said that RFK, he's puzzled because technically, if you're a private institution, you have the right to crack down on freedom of speech more than if it was a public institution. So RFK is saying, since you guys are private institutions and you guys don't have to follow the First Amendment, why aren't you guys violating their First Amendment rights? Do you guys hear the unhinged garbage that RFK Jr. just said right now? That literally if people are intellectually honest, anyone who ever said anything nice about RFK Jr. ever should cover this. This is me putting the call to my friends too. If you ever say anything nice about RFK, you better cover this because this is the most unhinged argument against free speech I have ever heard. Because what free speech absolutists, they said we should stand for the principle of free speech. So they'll say, well, social media companies, they should allow free speech because even though technically they're not the government, technically we should support the concept of free speech. Here's RFK Jr. saying that, hey, these colleges are private, so why don't they crack down on freedom of the speech? It's crazy. I'm going to play that part again. I'm going to let it continue. It's so insane that he just said this part out loud.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is an independent presidential candidate. Before we get to the politics, there's a lot of craziness going on, scary stuff on college campus. The president's been hiding. What's going on?
I don't know. I mean, it's very, very alarming. It's puzzling because it's happening on the private campuses, and they actually have a lot more leeway for controlling this. I'm all for peaceful protests, for freedom of speech. You can't threaten people, you can't intimidate people, you can't trespass, you can't prevent students from going to their classes, you can't break private property. Those are law enforcement issues. The private campuses can easily redress this. They can end this. The state schools have already done it, almost all of them. Oh, and they have a lot less leeway because they're subject to the First Amendment. The private campuses are not. The First Amendment doesn't function on the private.
He said it again, my friends. This is him saying, he like, man, technically we have a First Amendment. He like, yeah, technically, if we want to get in the weeds, man, technically they can protest. But man, you don't have to follow the First Amendment because you're a private company. Hey, come on, man. Stop letting them motherfuckers use freedom of speech. We don't have to do that. Guys, this goes against everything the right wing has been saying for the last decade or two now. There would be someone who would say unhinged racist comments on their social media feed. They will get fired for it. And then the right wing will come out and say, oh my God, this person is getting canceled for saying the N-word or something like that. They will say, yeah, and then the argument from the right wing would be, yeah, we know that this is not the government, it's a company, but we should support free speech as a principle. This is what these people have been saying for years now. And now all of a sudden they're like, well, technically you're a private institution. You can crack down on anyone who criticizes Israel. Do you guys see how Israel completely rioted the brains of a large segment of white America who they just repeat this garbage? RFK is extremely popular, even after coming out as a traitor to this country. Like he's an open traitor to this country, and he's still popular. I said on the show before, Zionists are Confederate level traitors. RFK is advocating against freedom of speech, against freedom of expression. Why? Because of Israel. And people still like him. People still like this guy. Do you guys know how crazy every single white dude with a YouTube show, how crazy they would go if RBN or any black person during the George Floyd protest was saying this shit? If any black person was saying that we need to silence anyone who is critical of reparations, anyone who's critical of defund the police, we must censor them. We must pull their funding. The only minority group that is allowed to do this is Zionist Jews, as they pretend they are the victim. Zionist Jews, people, emphasis on Zionist part. Zionist Jewish people are the only minority group that can get immediate congressional hearings. They can get legislation passed, and they have a private militia known as the police to enforce their will. And then they still pretend they're the victims. Anyway, let's continue. I'm gonna play this part again because this is RFK passionately coming out against freedom of speech. And I'll be paying in. Let's see how many people are gonna cover this. Because there's only one free speech faction, as I said. People thought I was being divisive. They're like, Nick, why don't you give the right wing enough credit? I told you guys. RBN, the Marxist left, we're the only principled free speech motherfuckers out here. All these motherfuckers gotta have exceptions. But anyway, let's continue.
Threaten people, you can't intimidate people, you can't trespass, you can't prevent.
Oh, yeah, let me address this before I let continue, because you gotta see how he says, and this is the messaging coming from the professional managerial class, the capitalist class, the people who hate dissent. They're saying you can't occupy buildings. Guys, that's the longest standing form of nonviolent protest that there is occupation of buildings. The ruling class is now taking occupation of buildings off the table. They are taking effective revolutionary tactics off the table, and they are doing it on purpose because they know it's effective. They say, oh, well, you can't make people feel uncomfortable. What does that even mean? That doesn't even mean anything. Listen to the garbage about like you can't make people feel threatened. What does that mean? Anyway, let's let me play again. Now I'm gonna expand more on that point because these same people who would condemn Hamas, RFK Jr. he hates Hamas so much he's down for killing hundreds of thousands of people, innocent civilians, in order to get rid of Hamas. So these people like, oh my God, you can't support revolution and violent resistance. And then people engage in peaceful protests, the occupation of buildings, which has always been peaceful. And now they say, oh, you can't do that peaceful protest. And then people are like, okay, we can't occupy buildings. Okay. A lot of professional managerial class people are like, okay, we can't occupy buildings. I get it. So let's boycott then. Since that's non-violent, we're not occupying anyone. We just putting our money where our mouth is. We voting with our dollars. So let's boycott Israel. No, you can't do that. We got an anti-Semitic bill. You're anti-Semitic if you boycott Israel. If you're a government employee, you must pledge support to Israel. You will not be hired. You can't get a government contract in this country unless you pledge that you won't boycott Israel. So you can't boycott Israel. You can't occupy buildings and publicly protest against Israel. You can't resist Israel with armed resistance. You can't protest on the float. You can't protest on a boat. You can't protest from a bar. You can't protest from afar. You can't protest over there. You can't protest anywhere. You can't protest in the house. You can't protest with a mouse. They're so ridiculous. I gotta drop Dr. Seuss on these motherfuckers because they're so ridiculous. In white America, like, yeah, you can't do that. You can't protest. You can't do that. Fuck yeah, you can't protest over there. And I'm not holding back on you guys feeling no more because you gotta talk to we gotta get this shit straight, man. I see people complain on all my videos now. I don't give a fuck. Until you guys talk to the family members who I'm talking about, I am not letting up. I am not letting up until you guys stop doing shit. Well, I don't like talking about politics. No, you sit there and explain you talk to your family like, why the fuck you support Israel? We are beyond done. There's no more of this shit. You're like, well, I'm not one of them. Well, you know your uncle's a Zionist. Anyway, let me continue. I'm not gonna piss you off too much. Let's continue.
You can't threaten people. You can't intimidate people. You can't trespass. You can't prevent students from going to their classes. You can't break private property. Those are law enforcement issues. The private campuses can easily redress this. They can end this. The state schools have already done it, almost all of them. Oh, and they have a lot less leeway because they're subject to the First Amendment. The private campuses are not. The First Amendment doesn't function on the private campus. All the private campuses want to have open debate, but if people are being racist, if they're being anti-Semitic, and I've heard the shouts from these crowds, and they're appalling.
Yeah,
look at RFK Jr., the social justice warrior. RFK Jr. and Jesse Waters, the social justice warriors. Do you guys remember that cringe ass shit? I tell you guys, I hate culture war. I hate that entire chapter of American history, the social justice warrior wars, and the people hated quote unquote social justice warriors because social justice warriors would say, "Oh, you guys are saying stuff that are racist. You are saying stuff that make black people and brown people feel uncomfortable." And white America freaked the fuck out. Us having some white allies who may be misguided in some ways. They may be a little bit goofy, you know what I mean? Social justice warriors, they used to say stuff that made me cringe too. But they were advocating caring about people's feelings, being mindful about our language. And these white allies who advocated this behavior was universally scorned by white America. They was hated by white America and attacked as social justice warriors. They, the purple hair college girl, the white leftists who are social justice warrior. That is what the entirety of the right wing is right now. The same thing they mocked. The most insane caricature of what a social justice warrior was, it is what right wing people are right now. Once again, guys, there's a lot of caveats to it because I don't even accept the argument that a lot of right wingers made on social justice warriors, but the caricature of these people is exactly what many white right wing Americans are for Israel. All of a sudden, you gotta care about the feelings of the Jewish people. You're making people feel unsafe. Look at the chants. Look at what they're saying. They're making me feel uncomfortable. I feel uncomfortable. We need to crack down on their speech. We need to get these people fired. We can have open dialogue. Everything they said about social justice warriors, culture warriors on the left, is literally what they are. And who told you guys that up front? Who told you guys that the entire woke culture war was bullshit? We told you guys these culture wars are bullshit because they're here to trick you, to think you, to convince you that these people are on your side. But they're openly hypocritical. But I'm gonna continue because we got a lot to cover. Because Jesse Waters, after RFK Jr. snowflake social justice warrior meltdown in his safe space on Fox News, Jesse Waters is going to chime in their safe space, and he's also going to have a social justice warrior style meltdown. Let's continue.
But, if people are being racist, if they're being anti-Semitic, and I've heard the shouts from these crowds, and they're appalling.
Yeah, they're just absolutely disgusting. Some of the tactics also pretty disgusting. We're hearing that the Biden legal team is throttling you guys by the throat. What's the truth?
You mean my case?
Actually, for the sake of time, I was about to cover this. Well, for the sake of time, I'll move on because I just mostly want to cover RFK on the protest. So I'm actually going to move on from here. You guys hear RFK and Jesse Waters strongly coming out against freedom of speech in one of the most belligerent ways. And what I think is the ultimate irony of this is RFK Jr. is criticizing people for protesting his rival. That's how strong their ties to Israel are. They are making extreme blunders like this. These people are protesting Biden's wars. Isn't that your fucking rival, RFK? So here's RFK Jr. essentially taking the same position as Joe Biden here. Now this speech will go down in history. This speech, I consider Biden's official concession speech. Because after this speech, it's over, my friends. And I'm saying this not as someone who's following my timeline. I'm saying people who hate RBN because we're too radical. I'm talking about social democrats. You know the people we mocked for the last 2 years? I am seeing them say they're done. I am seeing shit I have never thought I was going to see. I am seeing liberals who hate RBN for advocating against voting for Biden. They are now throwing their hands up saying we're done. Because now, listen to this unhinged garbage, because this is Genocide Joe essentially condemning and justifying insane police presence and use against people who are protesting his genocide. So let's play this video because there's going to be a lot to say here.
We're going to go live now to Washington where President Biden is giving his remarks on what we hear is the campus unrest. Let's take a listen.
Assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But neither are we a lawless country. We're a civil society, and order must prevail. Throughout our history, we've often faced moments like this.
Now pause here because I have to make a very important point, a point that literally only RBN been making. I promise to God. You guys get exclusive action because who else been explaining to you guys the psyop of authoritarianism other than us, other than our tanky ass? Because you guys understand the argument that Joe Biden is using here is the same argument that Iran will use. How many times have you guys seen statements from Anthony Blinken and the United States government where it was like, hey, we call on Iran to respect the ability and the rights for people in Iran to peacefully gather and protest their government. We condemn Iran for cracking down on their protests. Meanwhile, Biden does the same exact thing here, and he quotes his laws. So Iran quotes the laws as well for the reason why they quote unquote crack down on dissent. Whenever another country enforces their laws, a country that we don't like, they call it authoritarianism. For example, in Venezuela, the opposition party teamed up with the CIA to assassinate Nicolas Maduro. So Nicolas Maduro then threw those people in prison who was coordinating with the CIA. You want to know what the United States said, including Bernie Sanders? They called Nicolas Maduro a tyrant, an authoritarian thug for imprisoning political opponents, the same political opponents that were trying to murder him. You guys see how they weaponize the word authoritarianism? It mostly means nothing. RBN is the only channel that ever defined what authoritarianism is. We're the only channel that have done that. For example, it's Joe Biden having its unchecked power that is not given by the population. It is government power that is flexed without the will of the people. So when you have a government that imposes harsh criminal justice, anti-drug laws when Americans love drugs, it creates an authoritarian police state society, which leads us to having the highest rate of incarcerated citizens. So it's a deeply authoritarian policy, the war on drugs. Now, this is a caveat that a lot of people don't understand. In China, they have very similar harsh drug laws, but that cannot be considered authoritarianism because drugs in China is deeply unpopular. China hates drugs because the Opium War is distasteful. It's extremely anti-drug society. Because of this, because the laws in China matches the will of the people, it leads to less people dissenting against the law. That's why China, despite having 5 times more people than us, they have around 1.4 billion people. Despite having 1.4 billion people and pretty strict drug laws, they have less people in prison than the United States. How is that possible? That's possible when your laws are in harmony with society. When your laws are in harmony with society, when it reflects the will of the population, you don't have to implement a police state. So America, and this is judgment free, even if you don't like it. America has been and always will be, because it always was, a country that loved drugs. The United States loved drugs so much, we launched 2 drug wars, and we lost both of them. We launched a drug war in prohibition against alcohol, and we lost. We launched a drug war against weed and marijuana, and we lost. That shit is legal in Missouri, which is crazy. But despite public perception and will being against the drug war, what do our government do? Our government proceeds anyway, despite the fact that the people don't want a drug war. This is authoritarianism. That's why the United States have insane amount of people in prison compared to other countries who may have similar drug laws, for example, because we have a government that do not reflect the will of the people. This is what authoritarianism means. That's why communism, my friends, cannot be authoritarianism. When you have the dictatorship of the proletariat, when you have a government that is brought about by revolution in the will of the people, that cannot be authoritarianism. We are giving free healthcare based on the will of the people. We will provide housing based on the will of the people. And the people who dissent against those policies are the capitalist class, which are the minority. They lost the democracy system, so we have the right to enforce our laws in our society on people who dissent against the majority and the will of the majority. This is the basic concept of the dictatorship of the proletariat and why communism is inherently democratic. So I had to explain it to you guys because people inherently say that revolution is authoritarianism. No, revolution is the most democratic thing that people can engage in. It's people rising up against a government that is suppressing the will of the majority and demanding that the will of the majority be followed. It is the counter and antithesis of authoritarianism. Authoritarianism is what you are seeing right here, where despite the fact that majority of Democrats support ceasefire in Gaza, you have majority of Jewish Democrats that opposes Biden policy. You have Biden staffers that are sending letters, that are resigning en masse. The Democratic Party base is rebelling against the policies that Joe Biden is implementing, to the point where even bourgeoisie students are engaging in acts of resistance because they disapprove of the actions that our government is engaging in. But despite all of that, despite everyone showing their dissent to Joe Biden, he refuses to budge. And there is no mechanisms in which we have to make them change their policies. My friends, that is the height of authoritarianism. And what system that we have here? It's capitalist. Capitalism and authoritarianism are intrinsically linked. When you have capitalists that can bankroll people like Biden, the person who took more AIPAC money than any other candidate combined, well, not combined, sorry, I misspoke. He took more AIPAC money than anyone in history. So the guy who took more AIPAC money than anyone in history is now the president of the United States. Do you guys think that's a coincidence? The guy who took most AIPAC money in history was a senator for 40 years. So I need to explain to you Americans that you do not have democracy here. Capitalism is inherently not democratic. The representation you get is decided by the capitalist class and the people who own capital, which is not you. You are not a capitalist. You are an exploited worker. So now I had to go on this rant because you're going to see Biden give an unapologetically authoritarian speech here, where he is even asked at the end of this speech, will the will of the people will protest change your actions? And he says no, which should not be shocking because this is the ideology of capital. So I apologize I had to go on this long rant, guys. When I talk about theory, there's nothing I can do other than go on long rants. That's why we go on long rants on this show. We're not like these other channels that give you surface level politics. I don't do 5-minute videos on when I do these live stream segments because I have explained to you the depth of the politics, the science of politics, my friends, which no other channel covered in RBN because theory is too hard. No, we're here to explain this shit to people because I understand that other people don't have time to research this. So I shut the fuck up. And now I'm going to let this video play, this authoritarian speech play. And now you guys will understand everything I said as we watch this video.
We're going to go live now to Washington where President Biden is giving his remarks. And what we hear is the campus unrest. Let's take a listen.
Assemble and make their voices heard. The second is the rule of law. Both must be upheld. We are not an authoritarian nation where we silence people or squash dissent. The American people are heard. In fact, peaceful protest is in the best tradition of how Americans respond to consequential issues. But neither are we a lawless country. We are a civil society, and order must prevail. Throughout our history, we've often faced moments like this because we are a big, diverse, free-thinking, and freedom-loving nation. In moments like this, there are always those who rush in to score political points. But this isn't a moment for politics. It's a moment for clarity. So let me be clear. Peaceful protest in America. Violent protest is not protected. Peaceful protest is. It's against the law when violence occurs. Destroying property is not a peaceful protest. It's against the law. Vandalism, trespassing, breaking windows, shutting down campuses, forcing the cancellation of classes and graduations. None of this is a peaceful protest. Threatening people, intimidating people, instilling fear in people is not peaceful protest. It's against the law. Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education.
So you know he made that up, right? And I'm gonna say something he said right now that with straight up fascist ideology. Where he said, your freedom of speech ends when you instill fear into people. My question to you guys is, what does that mean? When you say instill fear, when you guys advocate for giant police budgets, you guys are instilling fear into me. When I see you guys bomb countries, you guys are instilling fear into me. So this metric means nothing. So our freedom of speech ends when you're afraid after something I say? So if I was to sneak up on someone, if I was to around the corner sneak up on someone and say, boo! And they, and I still fearing them, did I break the law? Is that not covered in freedom of speech when you scare people? This is literally what a fascist would say, my friends. And this is Biden declaring that these protests are violent as he funds a genocide, by the way. Of course, the person who is being protested, the person who is funding a genocide and war, of course, he's going to say the protests are violent. Guys, name me one protest that the ruling class has ever seen that was like, okay, I know we criticized other protests for being violent before, but this one's okay. You guys are just doing okay. Name me one protest that challenged power. Name me any movement that was actually worth a damn where the ruling class was like, oh no, I know we was critical of your earlier protests, but the way you guys are handling this one, I approve. I think I actually want to commend you guys for actually protesting in the way that we approve of. Guys, that never happens. There's literally never been a protest against power where the person in power didn't call it violence. Not one goddamn time. They called the civil rights movement violent. White America had a 75 to 80% disapproval rating of Martin Luther King Jr. They always want to pretend like they wasn't, though. They always pretend it was on the right side of history. They always leave that part out. There is never and there will never be a protest in which a president, a mayor, a governor, or a member of this fascist ruling class will ever say we approve. You know why? They're fascist. They say the Chinese Communist Party. You know, they say that to scare white people. They say they're authoritarian. You guys know that China was met with protest after they doubled down on harsh lockdown policies. So then people protested in China. You know what they said never happens? You want to know what happened in response to massive protest? China didn't stick their police state out there, and we didn't get images that we're seeing now. China rolled back the lockdown policies. And it was one of the most hilarious stories I've ever seen because a lot of right-wingers who had China derangement syndrome was covering the story up until that point. You had the Dave Rubins, the Ben Shapiro, the Tucker Carlsons. All these people was like, look at the mass China uprising. They're calling out these authoritarian states for implementing lockdowns. And then China was like, okay, you guys shown that you guys disapprove of our actions. So we're going to change our policies. And then all those people with this statement never did a follow-up showing how China actually listened to their people. None of those people ever did that follow-up. So China, despite everything you guys are told, fam, decolonize your mind. Decolonize your mind. Everything you're told about other countries is false. I covered this on RBN when this happened. And I'll show you that was just another example of the government listening to the people in China. Meanwhile, we're protesting in the United States. You want to see what Biden and how he responds to it? And he's going to get to it at the end of the video.
Peaceful protest. It's against the law. Dissent is essential to democracy, but dissent must never lead to disorder or to denying the rights of others so students can finish the semester and their college education. Look, it's basically a matter of fairness. It's a matter of what's right. There's the right to protest, but not the right to cause chaos. People have the right to get an education, the right to get a degree, the right to walk across the campus safely without fear of being attacked. But let's be clear about this as well. There should be no place on any campus, no place in America for anti-Semitism or threats of violence against Jewish students. There is no place for hate speech or violence of any kind, whether it's anti-Semitism, Islamophobia, or discrimination against Arab Americans or Palestinian Americans. It's simply wrong. There's no place for racism in America. It's all wrong. It's un-American. I understand people have strong feelings and deep convictions. In America, we respect the right and protect the right for them to express that. But it doesn't mean anything goes. It needs to be done without violence, without destruction, without hate, and within the law. You know, make no mistake, as president, I will always defend free speech, and I will always be just as strong in standing up for the rule of law. That's my responsibility to you, the American people, my obligation to the Constitution. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, have the protests forced you to reconsider any of the policies with regard to the region?
No. Thank you.
Mr. President, do you think the national...
Does the ongoing protests will affect their decision making in Gaza? No. But they want to tell you China is authoritarian. This can be described as nothing else other than a concession speech, my friends. This was a concession speech. This was Joe Biden coming out and saying, all right, I don't give a fuck. I'm willing to serve Zionism. And our goal is to get Trump back. Because this is the moment where I saw a lot of the social democrats who, a lot of them we've been criticizing very harshly. A lot of people who hate us because we're too radical. I seen them flip because of this. Like, this is truly unhinged. People, everyone who voted for Joe Biden, I know you will never admit that we was right, but that's going to be a vote that's going to haunt you for the rest of your life. And I tried to prevent that. If I voted for this psychopath, I would not be able to sleep at night, my friends. God knows what my mental health would be if I gave power to this psychopath. And now you guys got to live with that because you got to listen to TYTs. You got to listen to Hassan Pikers and all those people instead of black radicals. I see a lot of people saying don't believe them. I tell you guys, I am like this, and I am willing to be burned like this. I give people a lot of benefit of the doubt. I try to give people opportunities to learn and grow, even if that leads to disappointment. That's why I also go very hard, because I also give people a lot of leeway to change and grow, even if it means being disappointed. Always try to see the good in people, even if it leads to me being burned. You know what I mean? And we have been burned on RBN. You guys seen it many times. We've been burned on RBN because we try to see the good in people, and it failed. And that's something that I'm willing to accept as a reality in life, because I don't want to live life the alternative. I'd rather see the good in people and be betrayed. I'd rather let people too close and be betrayed than live the alternative, because I think people, they're like so afraid. They're so anyway, I'll spare you guys a rant, but I think like the disappointment in that is natural, but that's what make life worth living. That's what make the idea of rehabilitation possible. Yes, I believe in rehabilitation, but there's a chance that someone may not rehabilitate. And there's people who believe in rehabilitation that are burnt, but it's very important to believe in that for the soul. But let me get back to another point that Biden made, where he's talking about how he blamed the protest because he said he was playing how, oh my God, you guys are ruining graduation. The students are ruining graduation, according to Genocide Joe. No, your failure to change your policy and reflection of the will of the people is what ruined their graduation. You guys see how utterly absurd the thought processes of the ruling class and the bourgeoisie is. Their initial reaction is to blame the protesters instead of the ruling class who set the conditions that will force the hands of the protesters. Because if you understand science, the science of governing and ruling, your actions have actions and consequences. There are things you can get away with and things you can't get away with. And if you are choosing to engage in actions that is against the will of the people because you're taking AIPAC money, Zionist influence, you must accept the consequences of of essentially your policy, the uprisings, the people being upset. So instead of Americans having the proper view, which many people in the global South, other cultures who have more revolutionary cultures, when they see social unrest, they blame the government. Like, hey, man, you fucking up. Why the protest? Oh, my God, I can't get to work because traffic is blocked. Goddamn government. That's how you're supposed to think. And you guys see how the ruling class don't want you to put the onus on them. Now, last thing I want to show you guys before I wrap up here, because you guys see this whole thing that Zionists are painting. They're painting the people who are protesting genocide as the people who are unhinged. They are trying to pretend that the hate is coming from the people who oppose genocide, as we've seen a coalition between the police state and Mossad-sponsored, Zionist-sponsored counter-protesters. So as the ruling class created this story out of nowhere, they manufactured a story. Joe Biden is planting the idea that people who oppose his foreign policy are hateful and anti-Semitic, because he have reaffirmed once again that people who protest against his war against Israel are inherently being anti-Semitic. That is what he was saying in his speech. Because of course he will call people who are protesting his government anti-Semitic or racist. So as our government, the entirety of the social justice warriors in white America, are pretending that the anti-genocide protesters are anti-Semitic and they're spreading hate, you have Zionist counter-protesters who are constantly being recorded saying, "Free Palestine!" Now here are the Zionists also throwing fireworks. There are Zionist counter-protesters that are being funded by the capitalist authoritarian thugs in our country that support Zionism. I'm going to show you guys that here very soon. This is them assaulting the protesters. The police doing absolutely nothing about it because the police is siding with the new age Pinkertons, because now we got the Pinkertons are back, guys. The Pinkertons are now serving Zionism. The capitalists are now hiring private armies. The capitalists are hiring private armies to enforce their will, and they are working with the police state. And fam, I have receipts for you guys, and I'm going to show you guys because I can back up everything I say. Here it is right here. Free Palestine! So you have that act of domestic terrorism. Can you imagine the headlines that will run 24/7? 24/7? That if there was fireworks fired by anti-genocide protesters into pro-Israeli law. That would be headlines for weeks and weeks, never ending story, never ending investigations into what happened here. But not only is it not mentioned anywhere in the corporate media, Biden's not going to mention it. Democrats are not going to mention it. The same people are saying you had to protest peacefully. They're not saying a goddamn thing about this. They're not saying anything about this because let me read the description here. You have the counter protesters that are working with the pro-Israeli protesters, which are the Mossad, without a doubt, being bankrolled by the Zionists as well, that are here to fight people at UCLA. Now let's listen to this. Huh? You guys hear that? Let's go back. You guys hear that? Bro, as they're telling you, there is hate speech at pro-Palestinian protests, anti-genocide protests, as I should say. You have Zionists that are constantly being recorded saying the N-word at these protests, especially in a very hostile way. This is one of many videos of Zionists attacking Palestinians while calling them the N-word. Here it is again. Where are the liberals calling this out? Where are the Democrats calling this out? Now you guys see why RBN is strongly against Zionism. Now you guys see why there's been a long time connection between the African American community and Palestinians, South Africans and Palestinians. Now do you guys see why the Black Panthers had a strong connection with the Palestinians? And then liberals, oh my God, the Black community is betraying us. You guys are racist Nazis. Guys, the amount I have been called the N-word since October 7th, I can't do segments about it. Guys, if I were to tweet a screenshot of every time I was called an N-word, every time I was called a monkey, every racist comment that I got in replied to me by Zionists ever since my coverage of ever since I would say October 7th, since people cared about this, I would tweet about it nonstop. So there's no point in me doing that. So I'll show you guys this. This was a recent reply section of a recent viral tweet. Guys, if I were to show you guys this stuff, I would tweet about this nonstop 24/7. So when people are like, why do RBN talk about race so much? So all you people that are like, why do RBN talk about race so much? Do you guys understand that every member of RBN get this shit every single day? As you guys tell us not to talk about race, this is the shit that we get every single day, and it comes from the Zionists. This is me calling out the amount of money that we sent to Israel. Quiet down, nigger. Calling out blacks being weak. Call me a welfare baby. Even though once again, guys, I sold cars. I made good money selling cars. I always pay my taxes. I'm a law-abiding citizen. But these are the racist comments that we get for opposing Israel. These are the racist comments that we get for opposing our system. But then white people in our comment sections be like, why are RBN always talking about race? As we have Zionists who control our country, who are vicious, anti-black racists. God, there's just one screenshot of many I can show you guys. And this is in response to my friend, a good friend of mine, who, because you gotta know, anyone who I'm friends with is also fighting this fight with me. This is a really good personal friend of mine. Fighting a good fight, because if you're not fighting this fight, you most likely not a friend of mine. That's just how it works. She calling out the IOF. And this Zionist, you guys see the Israeli flag? I guess it's easier to live as a ghetto single mother whose baby daddy left as soon as you got pregnant to live on welfare checks, sucking Americans type pair dry. Isn't that right? Not knowing who this person is, they know she's a black woman and assumed that she's a ghetto single mother. You guys see the racism that we see every day come from Zionists? And dude, the amount of tweets you will see like this is endless on Black Twitter, where we just showing screenshots like, guys, you got liberals, you guys know these are the people that you sign up with. These are Zionists. These are Zionists every time they see a Black person speak out against their genocide. Every time an Israeli see a Black person speak out against their war crimes, this is what happens. But how many times do we mention it? We don't mention it a lot on RBN. But then the white boys will come in our comment section and they be like, RBN, why you talk about race so much? As these people fucking run our country. Zionists run our country, and they are the racists that we were talking about. Oh, you think I only got one receipt, my friends?
Keep it going, keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. Hey, you all do shit, keep it going. Do something about it. Do something about
Y'all heard that? Bitch ass nigga, he says. Do you understand the media that we will be subjected to at a 24/7 clip if there was footage of anti-genocide protesters saying and doing this stuff? Imagine if there's a Palestinian at a directed at a Zionist, even let's say a Black Zionist, even saying, "You bitch ass nigga." Do you understand that will be ran 24/7, nonstop on TV? And this is going on as Joe Biden is calling our protests hateful. This is going on as RFK Jr. is calling our protests hateful. You have Zionists that are being filmed and they cannot stop saying the N-word. They cannot stop saying insanely racist shit. And as this happened, they condemn us, the people who oppose genocide, as people who spread hate. Do you guys see the game they're playing on us? Here, Breonna Joy Gray saying, "Why do Zionists keep saying the N-word?" Once again, as this going on, the entirety of white America right now is talking about how the people protesting genocide is spreading hate. As this is going on right now, white America passed a bill that condemned anyone who protests Israel as anti-Semitic. They are calling the protests against genocide violent, as Zionists literally have their own Pinkertons. They're literally hiring a private militia in order to assault people who are protesting the foreign policy of another country. Here's from Hotspot, my brothers and sisters at Hotspot once again. Armed Jewish group attacks over 200 dress. So there are over 200 armed Jewish groups. Sorry, I'm reading this wrong. There are over 200 people armed they dress like Proud Boys. They dress like those Fed boys. And they're attacking protesters, around 200 of them. Here's some proof. So this is the Zionist private militia.
Pussy ass bitch! Pussy ass bitch! Pussy NPC! NPC! No place in this world! Fuck you! Fuck you! Yo, why are you out here by yourself? Hey, stop!
This is a person being violently assaulted by the Zionist mob while being called all sort of names, hateful language. There's a lot of hateful language there. And where are the cops here? Here's another Mossad agent, Zionist domestic terrorist, who hit someone with a wooden plank. Do that. Where is the coverage of this on corporate media? Where is the statement from Democrats on this? It is non-existent, as they are literally creating a story out of nowhere with no evidence about how anti-genocide protesters are violent. They're literally crafting a story out of nowhere, and white Americans are choosing to believe it because they have to believe it. Because if they don't believe it and they believe that we are actually funding a genocidal government, and they actually have to admit that they're engaged in colonialism, their entire life shatters. These entire people who supported Zionism their entire life, these entire people was told a lie about how they are peace-loving and the other people are the savages. If they acknowledge that we are right, it was completely shatter their reality. So because they don't want to do that, we are seeing them engage in fascism. Here's Hotspot, once again highlighting this. Zionists raised $50,000 in 5 days. In 5 days. To physically assault and potentially kill protesters. Where is the story on the New York Times about this? We literally have ads. We literally live in a new age of the Pinkertons, where Zionists are hiring a private militia to attack people who are protesting AIPAC-funded candidates in their foreign policy. Do you guys understand the insane times that we are living through right now? What we are living through is literally the craziest times I could possibly thought. We are seeing Zionism completely be exposed. People are completely turning against Zionism, and we're seeing what I knew what was going to happen. Like when we talk about this in theory, we knew that when Zionism at its deathbed, when capitalism is really challenged, you're really going to see the fascism come out. Us tankies, we have a famous phrase we like to repeat. When you scratch a liberal, a fascist bleeds. That's what we like to say. When you scratch a liberal, a fascist bleeds. And now we're seeing fascist blood all over this country right now. Because the fascism of these liberals, they are all Zionists, is being exposed. Because these same people have no problem with this. We have celebrity and we have capitalists that are funding private militias to squash dissent. Guys, we are living in a new age of fascism. If you don't believe me, don't take my word for it. Study history. Look at what fascism is. I promise you guys, if you think I am full of shit, guys, that's okay. Listen to what I'm saying right now. Go back and read the books, read history, and study the movements of fascism. And then once you guys do that, then you guys will realize I'm right. Because I've done that. When people talk about the current age they live through, they usually don't talk about with the gravitas of historians. Like, for example, during World War I, they wasn't calling it World War I. A lot of people during World War I, they just call it the Great War, for example. Then we look back at it and we like, holy shit, that was World War. You know what I mean? They didn't call it the Cold War. It was economic policies to keep the Soviet Union in check. We are living through a new era of fascism where we have the I'm blanking on the best term I probably should use for this. Collaborators. The collaborators with the fascists. So what socialists been warning you guys is that the rise of fascism is possible with capitalist collaborators. Collaborators of the fascist class are capitalists who then fund fascist projects. Now look at what we have right here. Jessica Seinfeld and Bill Ackman fund pro-Israeli counter-protests at colleges. We are witnessing the new age of collaboration within fascism right now between the capitalist class and the private militias. We are seeing violently assault people who are opposing genocide, which is why we're seeing the corporate media, the same fascist collaborators, spread propaganda on behalf of the fascists. Guys, I use words very carefully. If you follow RBN a very long time ago, you guys remember I used to mock people who would just call like the average Trump supporter fascist. I used to hate when the Bernie Sanders left did that. When they would just call the average person who was tricked by propaganda, who voted for Trump because they were tricked by propaganda, they would call them fascists. Man, you can't call the person who's a victim of propaganda a fascist. These people are our neighbors. We gotta reach these people. I hated that they called them fascists. I call you guys are ruining what a fascist is by just calling the average Trump supporter a fascist. We need to be careful with our words. But what we're seeing right here, and this is why I warn people against just blindly calling anyone who opposes liberal social issues. Like I tend to be very socially liberal myself. But anyone who just opposes socially liberal issues is not a fascist. What we're seeing right now is true fascism at work, my friend. Hopefully that makes sense. I can see people put back on me, to be honest on that. Hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully what I said makes sense. I'm spitballing with you guys here. And it's very surprising we've seen this in the LA Times, and this is our friend Asar Rod, our much beloved class trader, PMC class trader Asar Rod, who explains how she just grabbed a screenshot from LA Times before they edited the headlines, because this is a phenomenon that you notice if you follow the story for a very long time, that every once in a while a story will creep in where they use the proper language, and then the editor will get hit up by their Zionist masters and they will change the title. It's one of the things that you guys have to see it. You guys have to know what I'm talking about to know what I understand. But it happens all the time, and that's what Saul calling out. She said that's why she grabbed a screenshot before the Zionists hit the editor up to have them change it, because they do that all the time. 4 UCLA student journalists attacked by pro-Israel counter-protesters on campus. Where is the Morning Joe segment on this? You guys understand the examples that they've been using for violent anti-genocide protesters is they were chanting stuff. They will literally say these protesters are violent because they're chanting stuff and they are making people feel uncomfortable. In order to smear the anti-genocide protests, they had to use a very broad definition of violence. Meanwhile, we literally have evidence and stories of Israelis attacking student journalists. Meanwhile, complete fucking crickets. Complete fucking crickets, my friends. Why America too afraid to touch it? They know who their masters are. That's why, like I lost all respect for Matt Taibbi after the Savvy Savs interview, because Matt Taibbi, he was like, I don't want to talk about Israel. It's complicated. No, it's not. Fuck out of here. And fuck anyone who says that. Matt Taibbi and all these white Americans, they know who their masters are, and they don't want to cross them. They don't want to cross the fascist masters of this country, who weaponize their capital, who has a private militia in the police force as well. You have the police that was literally helping the terrorists, shaking their hands afterwards. Let me see if I can find this. Oh, here it is. Here it is. My dumbass forgot to save it. Look at this. Meanwhile, motherfuckers was arguing against defund the police. Motherfuckers like, you can't argue for the police. Who's going to protect us? If you guys are only listening to this right now, this is a picture of the police shaking hands with the people who was part of the attack on the UCLA encampment last night. There are these pictures floating everywhere on my timeline. You guys know my timeline is based. You guys know our being community based. So these pictures are everywhere. These cops fucking shaking these people's hands, protecting them. We're seeing collaborations between the police and private militias against people who oppose the policies of the state. Fam, what is that defined as? What is that a tenet of? That is fascism. That is literally what we saw in Italy. That is literally what we've seen in Nazi Germany. That is literally what I said it before. I hate people that always use Germany. We see that in Ukraine. Because I do hate people that use that always invoke Hitler too, because they have no other historical knowledge. What is it called? Godwin's law, when you always talk about Germany and Hitler. We got many modern versions of that, like in Ukraine. We have private militias team up with the Azov Battalion to oppose socialist movements and worker movements. This is a very common characteristic of fascism, and we are seeing it today. And you have people who are quote unquote right-wing capitalists. I'm sorry, what am I talking about? I'm sorry, I'm tired. Right-wing populists who are siding with this. Here is a friend at hospital.
Matthew, hold on a second.
You have LAPD riot police move in on the UCLA encampment, and they fire pepper balls. They were firing rubber bullets, and it was attacking the encampment and doing all this while completely ignoring the counter protesters that was engaging in violence against the people who are protesting against genocide. But this is a story that Matt Taibbi is not interested in. This is the story that Tim Pool said. He like, you guys got Israel derangement syndrome. All these white people, because they know who their masters are. Journalists like, oh, I'm not interested in this. You literally got private militias being bankrolled by the capitalist class, teaming up with the police state, and white journalists are not interested in this. So this is more footage of this. Let me see. Did I skip any? Yeah, I think I got through it. Oh, let's go. I think we're about done. So a little bit over 90 minutes longer than I had planned. So I think we can wrap it here. Your boy had a long week, guys. Your boy had a long week. It was a very fun week, though. So I ended there. I already know I'm gonna piss off a lot of people with this stream today. So it is what it is. Let me read some super chat. I gotta get out of here. I'm tired. It's almost 11 o'clock over here. I'm dropping another hotspot video. Cause another reason I gotta wake up early. I gotta do another hotspot video. We took a few days hiatus on hotspot. I did my hotspot on Boeing that you guys saw. Let me put their page up. You gotta follow hotspot. I need to see what else they posting too, bro. Hotspot be on fucking fire, bro. Hotspot be on fire, bro. I'm getting like there's so many good stuff. Oh, look at this video. Oh, Jesus Christ. Bro, these are the people who help me edit my videos. If you guys need, I highly recommend follow Hotspot. In order to find them on X, you gotta look hotspot. You gotta type it in twice. Look at this. Oh, actually, let's cover this video. Holy shit! Look, he said, "Who's your day?" Look at all these leaders touching the wall of Israel. So I'm gonna put this up as I read the super chats. Oh, Jesus Christ! Maybe I should do that. Maybe just to end the stream, just go through what Hotspot is supposed to. Because I'll tell you guys, not only are they helping me create banger after banger after banger after banger after banger, they also produce bangers on their own as well. So let's read super chats and I get out of here. Yeah, I've read this one already about Chris Hedges. If you guys want to get my take on Chris Hedges being fired, I'll talk about it briefly. Earlier. Thank you for $5, Otto. You have to understand the First Amendment in order to understand the Second Amendment. Well said. Thank you, Otto. As I said to these right wingers in white America who's melting down right now over these protests, if you are against these protesters, hell, I'll go even stronger. If you're against Palestinian resistance, if you condemn Hamas, for example, as I said, if you condemn Hamas, you might as well give up your guns. Why we even have a Second Amendment? Because you don't believe in uprising. You believe that's terrorism. So if the United States passed a law that banned guns or did anything you consider to be tyrannical, and you're like, oh man, our government is becoming tyrannical, let us take up arms against our government because our government is doing some tyrannical shit, like the Second Amendment says, then based on what you guys call Palestinians, we can easily call you terrorists. The establishment will call you a terrorist, engaging in terrorist activity, resisting the state and breaking the law. So if you're one of the people who want to condemn Hamas, like majority of white Americans and people who claim they believe in the Second Amendment, if you really believe in it and that, you might as well give up your fucking guns. Because you really don't believe in resistance to tyranny. I'm a Marxist. I don't believe in any situation. Under no pretext do we ever give up our guns to the capitalist class. I am not a shit lib, my friends. But I am the one who actually believes in revolution and resistance. White America and the right do not. So what's the point of your guns? You think the Second Amendment is here so you can have a toy? You think it's a right to have a toy? The point was so we can form militias against governments like Hamas. So if you support the concept of the Second Amendment, the concept of resisting tyranny, give me liberty or give me death, you must commend Hamas like I do. I am a supporter. I commend what they do because Israel is a terrorist state that must be brought to heel. And as I said in my rant earlier, the only thing that you are obligated as a man is to protect your family and protect their rights. And if you're a Palestinian man, I believe that the best thing you can do is resist a state that is stripping the rights of your family. And if you don't believe in that, you might as well give up your rights and call yourself a shit lib because you are. I am not a liberal. I despise liberalism. I am not a pacifist. I believe the job of a man is to protect their family and the rights of their family, which Hamas is doing. Cry more if that makes you upset. Thanks for $10. RFK Jr. is claiming that protesters can't occupy. Let me get some more footage up so you guys have something to look up. Let's see what else Hotspot is posting about too. See, that's my banger. You gotta see, bro. We dropping bangers at Hotspot, bro. Dropping bangers. Oh hell no, we're not watching that. So I guess I'll put my merch. I guess we put merch up on here. You guys see, I got a different color of this shirt. Y'all saw the black one at the Green Party event. I got this in almost every single color except the military green one. If you guys want to get an RBN shirt, and by the way, I heard what you guys have suggested. Aaron is in the lab cooking right now, and we have banger after banger RBN t-shirts that are in production. We are currently working on making that right now, my friends. So you guys already know when that banger after banger shirt is made, I'm definitely about to get that. So I guess I'll put our merch store up. Damn, they put it in the description. Let me see if I can edit the description. We pretty much at the end of the show. Can I edit this in? I forgot to put it in the description before I went live today. You guys know I'm a one-man show. Fuck. I might have to edit it in later. But anyway, where's our shirt? You can see the shirt I'm wearing before I finish the last bit of super chats. Where is it? Fuck. We got so many. Here it is. This is the shirt you guys see me. This is the shirt I wore at the speech, obviously. Yeah, you already know how to pull up with RBN vintage shirt. And then I have every color except the military green one because I hate the military green almost on principle. This is actually the sand one I'm wearing right now. I know it looks white on the camera, but I'm actually wearing the sand one right now. So this is the shirt I'm wearing right now. I take a lot of pride in the work I do, so I got every fucking shirt. I got every motherfucking shirt because this is my life work. This is my passion. This is the work I'm passionate about. So, anyway, let me finish super chats. I'm gonna just have this up as I read them. So let me finish this one. RFK Jr. is claiming that protesters can't occupy a 100 square foot of grass in a university campus for a day, but it's okay for Israel to occupy all of Palestine for over 75 years for as long as they please. Absolutely. This is a banger of a super chat and a banger of a point, but also he's lying because occupation of spaces, of buildings is the longest form of protest probably known to man. It is literally one of the most valid forms of nonviolent protest there is. Guys, do not listen to the ruling class. The ruling class wants to change our terms of engagement, and that does not serve our interest. Of course, they're going to put restrictions on the way we can resist them. It's only the dumbest among us that accept their framing. Thanks for $20. Get down on some of this pizza, son. Also, your mama's a Houthi. I appreciate that reference. Your mama's a Houthi. Thank you for $20. That reference that's a reference to a bit I did a long time ago. Because you supposed to call them Ansar Allah. Houthis is actually pretty disrespectful because the West wants you. They don't want to legitimize the government. They don't even want to call them by their real name. They don't want to say it's Yemen, so they call them Houthis. And there are a lot of people who don't like that term. But I said I actually like the term Houthis because I think it sounds badass. Anyway, it's a fucking long joke. It sounds like an insult. You know what I mean? That's why they use it, I guess. I think Houthis are badass. Like, bro, fucking Houthi. Anyway, let's move on. Thank you for $10. Terrorism Risk Insurance Act. President George W. Bush on November 26, 2022. The act created a federal backstop for insurance claims related to acts of terrorism. Holiday laws need reviewed. Thank you for the $10. Killer Tomato. One last super chat. Thank you for $5. Buster Peak 21. If these were pro-Israel, pro-genocide protests, the landscape would be much different. Well said. I think I got through all the super chats. You already know another banger tonight. Big shout out to Bryce. Zoya's love, Zoya's life. Big shout out to my friend Zoya as well. We need to do another Nick and Zoya at night. There's a lot of Ukraine shit I saw you covering, Zoya. We need to do Nick and Zoya at night here soon. I'm trying to make sure I didn't miss anything. Anyway, okay, I think I can wrap up here. Thank you guys for watching. I'm gonna have another Zoya. Zoya cracks me up. I'm gonna have another hotspot video tomorrow. And then no Nick at Night on Saturday. Unfortunately, I can't because I got plans with family at noon. So I can't do Nick at Noon Saturday. I literally can't. So unfortunately, I won't be able to do Nick at Noon on Saturday. So make sure you guys check out the replay. I know this is a longer stream, so we got a lot of content. Check out my speech I gave with Joe Stein on KU. I have another hotspot video released on Friday. We'll see what I can do maybe on Sunday or so, but I'll let you guys know. Thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe. Have a great night, guys.